I've saved it, Jessica. I should have saved it.
Did it not loading now?
Okay, closed session report. We went into closed session to have a update on our negotiations with Trailblazers and their development on their project plans.
Can I just get a motion to reconvene into open too?
That's coming up in just a second. So I guess I do have to do the official. Call this meeting to order. As far as mayor's remarks, I don't have much other than I attended the Thrive Summit in Blythe yesterday and almost all of today. And I was really impressed. I actually thought the speakers yesterday, and maybe it's just because of my business and everything else, but they really touched a tone with me. I appreciated the information. Although my kids had loaded Chat GPT on my phone 6 months ago, I had never ever once pushed the button. But after there was an hour-long discussion in the main auditorium, and then there were some breakout sessions, and I went to the breakout session with the girl that gave the hour-long talk, and she had us actually do some hands-on stuff. And there's no doubt there could be some major pitfalls, but there could be some huge advantages if you learn to use software like that properly. And apparently it's not the only one out there. There's actually a government version, but that can be considered a little more secure. She talked about other ones that she says, in her opinion, are actually even better than Chat GPT. They're still free to use. And it was quite informative. And what it came down to was, don't expect it to give you the answers, but it will always help you get to where you want to go. And they said, one of the main things was never accept what you get from it the first time as being correct. And if it tells you something that you disagree with, or you don't like the way it said it, if you actually respond back that you don't like that part, it'll know to never respond that way again. It can learn from just the interactions back and forth very quickly. And the one girl that was there, I forget which municipality she was from. She talked about a project they had coming up. So 6 months ago, she started to type some stuff in just to get some ideas, and didn't realize, but because she had a login, when she went back 6 months later and wanted to do a little more work on it, it had remembered all the original information, and then it would move to the next stage. And they said, even the answers you get back, sometimes it may have good information, but it maybe drags it out too long and stuff like that. You can send it back its own information and say, condense this or shorten it up or make it a little friendlier in your discussion. And it will come back with another response. So I think if you had the opportunity to use it for something, you might find it very helpful.
What's it called?
Chat GPT is probably the most common one. There was another one I downloaded. She called it Claude. And she says it.
Grammarly.
And Grammarly is another one.
That's another one.
And I can't remember the Gov one.
It's Gov AI.
Just Gov AI?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Chartrand.
Interesting enough, today, there's 2 cyber training videos on our program that we have to go. And both of them talk about chatbot, one of them with all the pitfalls of it, but then the second one, all the benefits of using it to do your groceries, plan a vacation trip, putting in specific information. So if you hadn't seen those 2 yet, they're really interesting. And it's spot on to what you said, explaining the good about it and the bad about it.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to do your homework, you're probably going to fail because it doesn't have to give you correct information. But it can probably help you a lot if you've got good information, or at least you understand the topic to begin with. So anyways, I do know the staff here have used it a few times and are trying to use it more and more, which is a great thing because it is amazing how powerful and how fast it comes back with information. And that in itself will help staff speed up some of their processes. Now, they did caution when you're doing a grant application. The worst thing you can do is just accept whatever it says back to you, even if it has all the correct information, because chances are you could have 30 other municipalities that did the exact same thing. So they said, you might get really good information back, but you need to tweak it a little bit to make it sound a little more personal, hit more of the key points for your municipality. But there's something where staff can benefit and hopefully saving some time, getting more work done, and let's use the technology out there if it's not costing us anything. I thought it was a very good educational session. I thought it was worth the $20 it cost to go to the conference. Can I have a motion to reconvene into open session? Councillor Wilby and Councillor Deal, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East reconvene into open session at 6:06 p.m. All those in favor? And motion carries. And for the reporting out for the open session is council went into a closed session to discuss a matter that is subject to solicitor client privilege. And I would like to give the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral peoples. Can I get a mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda? Councillor Morrison, Deputy Mayor, that the agenda of the regular meeting of council dated April 15, 2025 be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? And motion carries. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest for this portion of the meeting tonight? Councillor Morrison.
Accounts payable report 8.13, the Bruxelles Lake Society is mentioned, and then same with 12.4, the 2025 municipal grant report. The Ag Society is requesting money, and I'm a member of the Ag Society.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Dalton.
I'll declare in planning 10.1.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder for approval of the previous meeting minutes? And there are three. That's the regular meeting of March 18th, the Committee of Adjustment public hearing of March 18th, and the special meeting of March 25th. Councillor Chartrand and Councillor Stepler. And that is that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East approved the following council meeting minutes, the three that I mentioned. All those in favor? And motion carries. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like to have pulled and discussed? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, there's three of them. They all kind of come from sort of the same source, 8.1, 8.8, and 8.9. They all speak to my Canadian, my local. They speak to the tariffs. They speak to removing trade barriers between the provinces. I think they're all trying to hit the same note, so I'd like to move them and support them if I could, please.
Okay, can I get a seconder for that support? Councillor Deal. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? And motion carries. Is there anything else that anybody would like to have pulled? Deputy Mayor.
If I could just have a clarification, it's for you, probably just to administration. It's to do with the water and sewer report. So that's 8.12 on the agenda and 8.8 within that report. It speaks to the report to take water, I believe, in Brussels, and it speaks to a temporary permit good until March the 31st. Is that anything to be aware of or cautious of, or?
We had a glitch.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, and I'm not sure if this goes back, and maybe it does go back to prior to COVID, because I think the time frame was every 5 years, you have to send in your notice to the province that you want to renew your permit to take water. It used to be that the province would send notice to the municipality that this was coming up. Since COVID, it appears that they may not be doing that. And so we realized after the fact that our permit had elapsed, and contacted the province right away. And I think we got a temporary one. There was no issue. It was just the fact that we got to get back into the system and just follow the proper process. Is that correct?
Mr. Mills would know the answer to that. Yeah, that's fairly well what happened. We do have the permit now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything on that or?
That was pretty good.
You're paying attention.
Yeah. If there are no other requests at this point, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Counselor Deal, second by Counselor Steffler, that the consent agenda items 8.2 to 8.7 and 8.10 to 8.13 be received for information and approved. All those in favor? And motion carries. Under 9, public meetings, hearings, and delegations, 9.1, Committee of Adjustment, Public Hearing, Minor Variance MV 02 2025. And I do need a mover and a seconder to go into the public hearing. Moved by Councillor Wilby, second by Councillor Newell, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East adjourn the regular meeting of council at 6:11 p.m. to go into a public hearing of Committee of Adjustment to discuss the following. It is a minor variance application MV 02 2025 for 45-253 Newry Road. Get this one up here. All those in favor? Motion carries. Shay, I'm gonna turn this over to you because I'm not sure where I am on my agenda.
We'll just need a confirmation of the public hearing agenda first.
Okay, can I get a confirmation for the agenda, Councilor Morrison and Deputy Mayor, that the agenda for the public hearing of Committee of Adjustment dated April 15, 2025 be adopted? All those in favor? Motion carries. And is there any declaration of pecuniary interest for this portion of the meeting? Seeing none. Welcome, Shay.
Thanks, Mayor. This is just a presentation for minor variance application MB 02-2025. Subject property is 4535 Green Road, and the owner and applicant is Daryl Terpstra, who is present in the gallery today. Next slide, please. So just a photo of the subject lands here outlined in blue. So we've got a 100-acre farm parcel on Huron Road, just southwest of Molesworth. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the application is to request one minor variance to reduce the required MDS 1 setback for a new farm residence from the required 565 meters to 485 meters to the livestock barn to the west of the proposed residence. This reduction was previously considered as part of a previous planning application Z03 2025, which was ultimately denied due to the level of reduction requested for the barn expansion that was also included in that application. So the applicants have returned with this variance just for the residential, the reduction to the MDS 1 for the new residents. The subject property is zoned AG1 and natural environment and is designated agricultural and natural environment in the division. Next slide, please. So here I've just got a sketch of the proposed new residence shown in red there, with the proposed setback to the existing livestock barn, just about 485 meters away. And the red circle or the orange circle there is the required MDS 1 setback, which is 565 meters. Next slide, please. Just another site plan here showing a more detailed view of the proposed new residence. The access would be through the forested area that runs on Newry Road, just to the south. The residence would be located on the south side of that natural environment piece. Next slide, please. And then here I've just included a buffer map of the required MDS 1 setback. So that's the 565 meter setback in red there, just to show proximity to other surrounding land uses. So the MDS 1 setback here does not impact any other livestock barns in the area. And next slide, please. Just a little bit of a snowy site photo of the proposed location. So currently the area where the residence is proposed is vacant. Next slide. So looking a bit at the policy review. So the application must satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance. The first being that it meets the intent of the official plan, which a residence accessory to agriculture is a permitted use. The application also meets the intent of the zoning bylaw as an accessory residence to agriculture is permitted, and the proposed residence is proposed to be operated by a family member involved in the active farming operation on the property. And then the last 2 tests are is desirable for appropriate development of the land and minor in nature. So the application is requesting a reduction to the setback to the livestock facility immediately to the west, which is also owned by the applicant. The reduction from 565 to 485 meters is approximately a 14% reduction. As I mentioned, the neighboring property is in the same family currently, but should the subject property change ownership in the future, the requested variance is not anticipated to have adverse impacts related to odor from the existing livestock facility. And there's a large forested area on the subject property between the proposed residence and the existing livestock barn, which would serve as a physical buffer between the 2 different uses. So as such, the requested variance is considered minor in nature and appropriate for the development of the land. Next slide, please. In terms of comments received, no comments or concerns were raised from agencies or Huron staff. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority was consulted on the application, have no concerns with the proposed location. And then a letter of support was received from the neighboring landowner to the east of the subject property, noting no concerns with the proposal. And next slide, please. So as the application meets these 4 tests of variance, the application is recommended for approval with the following conditions. Just the standard conditions there, valid for an 18-month period and proposed as per the submitted site plan. I'm here for any questions on that.
Are there any questions or comments from members of council on this application? Councillor Chartrand.
Yeah, so this severance and this minor variance is for a resident. A house, right?
For farms.
So in the future, if they were to decide to build another pig barn on this property, how would that affect the MDS of neighboring?
So any future livestock facilities on this subject property or the property to the west would be subject to MDS setbacks. So this new house will affect expansions to other abutting properties in their livestock facilities, and vice versa. The new house here would restrict will be restricted for livestock facility.
It wasn't the original intent to put a wiener barn on this particular lot.
Yeah, so the applicants have noted that future plans may include a wiener barn on this property. MDS would not apply to the proposed house, and that future potential livestock barn if it's on the same property. So that wiener barn, if proposed in the future, would have to meet the MDS setbacks to residences on abutting properties. So the existing house on the lot to the west would be subject to MDS. So they'll need to meet those requirements at that time.
Councillor Deal.
Do you happen to know the MDS distance to the or the pig operation to the south?
So the MDS that barn applies to,
Well, like, will this house, sorry, will this house affect the property owners to the south of that lot?
yeah, so back in the original application, we did look at what the distance is between the proposed house and that neighboring barn to the south, and the distance is over 1,000 meters away. So in theory, if that livestock facility wanted to expand, they would need to meet the setback to the house here. However, they would have to do a pretty intensive expansion to be impacted by the location of this house.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of members of the council at this time? Are there any comments or questions from members of the public other than the applicant at this time? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the applicant themselves? It's your choice.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for considering this again, and as Shay said, this house dropped in where the position that it is does not encompass any of the circles of the neighbors. We've had verbal support from a few of the neighbors. One actually wrote in and gave us support, so anything that we do expand on that property in the future needs to meet MGS setbacks as they are currently laid out. So I'm hoping this minor variance is acceptable to you, council. Thank you.
Just one more thing. Can I ask you to please state your name for the record?
Darrell Terpstra.
Okay.
And the Farms.
Thank you for that. If there are no other questions or comments, can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion as it was printed? Councilor McGrath, Councilor Steffler, that the council of the municipality of Huron East, acting as committee of adjustment, has held a public meeting pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 with respect to minor variance application MV02-2025, whereas no comments for the public were received and whereas no agency comments were received. Now, therefore, the Committee of Adjustment approves the minor variance application MV02 of 2025, concession 10, lot 33, Gray Ward, to permit the following variance from bylaw 52 of 2006. That the variance approved is valid for a period of 18 months from the date of the committee's decision. And 2, that the proposed structure be constructed as per the site plan submitted with the application to the satisfaction of the chief building official. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder to come out of the public portion of the meeting? Moved by Councilor Morrison, second by Councilor Deal, that the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 6:23 p.m. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Down to planning, 10.1 planning report consent application C06-2025. Go ahead.
So this is presentation for application C06-2025. Subject property is located at 43079 Hollywood Road. And the owner and applicant is Bert Reddick from Sunset Springs Farm. Next slide, please. So just got an aerial photo of the subject property. On the right there, outlined in orange, is the roughly 85-acre parcel. We're on Hollywood Hills Road here, just north of Seaford. And then on the left there is a more zoomed in perspective of the proposed severed lot. Next slide, please. So the application proposes to create a new lot under the surplus farm severance residence policies. The proposed retained land is approximately 81 acres in size, consisting of vacant farmland and a vacant livestock barn. And the proposed severed land is approximately 3.5 acres in size and consists of a house, drive shed, bank barn, and greenhouse structure. Next slide, please. So the property is zoned AG1 and Natural Environment Me2 in the zoning bylaw and designated agriculture and natural environment in the special plan. And the application is weighed against the Huron East official plan policies for a surplus farm severance. So the proposed severed area is kept to a minimum size of 3.5 acres needed for residential purposes and to accommodate the servicing of the lot. The residence is surplus to the proposed purchaser of the farmland, Ken Dalton, who owns another farm parcel containing a residence. So there's a condition suggested here that the retained farmland be transferred in the name of the qualifying farmer. There's an existing farm access on the retained parcel, and then lastly, there's a vacant livestock barn to the south of the proposed severed parcel. This is proposed to be removed, and this is also included as a condition, that the livestock barn be removed, prior to the finalization of the severance. No concerns were received from staff or other agencies on this. And no comments from members of the public. A couple photos of the subject property. So on the left, kind of behind the trees, is the existing house. On the right there is the existing bank barn. Next slide. And then the existing drive shed. And then on the right there is the livestock barn that's proposed to be removed. Next slide, please. So as the application is consistent with the PPS, conforms to the Huron County and Huron East official plans, and complies with the Huron East zoning bylaw, the application is recommended for approval with the attached conditions.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion? Moved by Councillor Wilby, second by Councillor Chartrand, that the council of the municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated April 9th of 2025, and has no objection to consent application C06 of 2025, provided the conditions outlined in the report are met. Any final comments or questions? All those in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. We will go to 10.2. Application C07.
Thank you. So the presentation here for consent C07-2025. The subject property here is 71 Louisa Street in Seaforth. Property owner is Walter Melnick, and the applicant is Brian Cura as his agent. Next slide, please. So just an aerial photo of the subject properties on the right there, outlined in orange. So we're on the corner of Louisa Street and Huron Street. Seaforth Packaging is just to the south, and surrounding land uses are primarily low density residential to the north and east there. And the image on the left shows the proposed severed parcels, retained in red on the top and severed in blue on the bottom. And next slide, please. So the application here proposes to create a new lot to split the existing multi-unit building into two parcels. The severed land is approximately 725 square meters and would consist of a 3-unit dwelling. And the retained land is approximately 730 meters, consisting of another 3-unit dwelling. The application here would have the effect of splitting the existing 6-unit building down the center, resulting in 2 separate 3-unit parcels. Next slide, please. So just got a sketch of the proposed severance here. So the severed on the top and the retained on the bottom. So you'll note that the property is 2 full lots, so lot 56 and 57 of Plan 394. There's a dashed line running north-south in the middle there. That's the original lot limit. So essentially the original lots were laid out with frontage on Huron Street, and subsequently merged together. The applicant is now proposing to split the building down the foundation of the existing property, so we need to rearrange the property boundaries. Next slide, please. So the subject property here is zoned medium density residential and designated residential plan. And the Huron East special plan permits consents such as this for correcting for boundary adjustments, provided it does not create an undersized or regularly shaped parcel. In this case, the application is proposing 2 lots of a similar size to the original lots from the original plan. In terms of comments, there was no concerns from agencies or staff. Next slide, please. A couple more comments from staff. So no concerns here, just a couple notes that the final inspection, so there was two additional units recently constructed within the last year on the north and south side of the building, resulting in a 6-unit building. So the final inspection for that building permit has not yet been completed. So we did include a proposed condition that the building permit associated with that construction be finalized prior to the finalization of the severance. There was some comments about outstanding items related to the site plan agreement, particularly the new driveway for the north unit that was recently constructed, and potentially some stairs for rear access on the new units as well needing to be completed. So again, just included a condition that these items be addressed in satisfaction of the site plan prior to the finalization of the severance. And all units here have been separately serviced with water, hydro, and sanitary services. And in terms of public comments, there was, we did have one phone call from a current tenant of the building, just asking some clarifying questions about the proposal. And they also noted some concerns with outstanding construction items, particularly the ones that I've already mentioned, which will be required to be completed as part of the site plan agreement. And next slide, please. There's a couple of photos here. So we've got the entire property. You can see the previously existing 4-unit building in the center there, and then off to the left and right are the recent additions of 2 additional units. Next slide, please. Then just a little bit closer look of those recent constructions. So the image on the top left there shows the new driveway for the new unit that was not completed. So just an item of note that completed, and the applicant can work with Public Works to coordinate that. Next slide, please. So the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the Huron East and Huron County official plans and complies to the Huron East zoning bylaw. As such, the application is recommended for approval with the attached conditions.
Any questions from council? Councillor Sharkin?
So with all these units constructed, they meet the parking requirement?
Yes, they do have one space per unit, as per the minimum requirements, and space for a little bit more.
Any other questions at this time? Councillor McGrath?
Was the original building built to be severed down the center?
I believe the owner of the property did build it with the intention of severing it. I believe they,
Fire separation.
Yeah, fire separation has
All that
been-
in between.
fire separation has been confirmed. I believe they originally thought the lots were oriented that way.
Can I get a mover and a seconder to accept this report? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Dalton. That the Council of the Municipality of Huron East acknowledges the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated April 10th of 2025 and has no objection to consent application C07 of 2025, provided the conditions as outlined in the planning report are met. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Next is our draft county official plan amendment, number 7.
Thank you. So I will keep this one brief. That report there is attached for information. Just an update on the county official plan amendment to bring the official plan in conformance with the PPS 2024. So I'm just here for any questions on that.
Any questions from any members of council? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Shay. Down to number 12, reports and recommendations of municipal officers. Number 12.1, Huron East Strategic Action Plan, the progress tracker. And that was for information purposes. If anybody had any questions, you can ask at this time. Seeing none. Number 2, a severance request. turn this over to the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I kind of want to just, I won't go in, it's a long report, I won't go into too much detail. I think a couple highlights I would say that we have not received any formal application from the delegate that spoke to council on the January 14th meeting. Back in 2024, I believe it was March, we did have a free consultation with them, with our planning staff and Huron staff. No formal plan was put forward. It was more of a conversation about what was involved for developing the lands in question. So we went through kind of some different items to consider. Part of the challenge with the lands is there's zone future development, so a zoning bylaw amendment is required to bring them into the proper zoning of industrial. Right now, they're currently future development. And part of any severance of the lands will involve making sure that there's access to any severed or retained parcels as part of that process. So kind of really without necessarily having a formal application in front of us, I did try to present a couple options. By no means are these, the end all be all of options. There may be some nuance or some combination of both, but certainly looking at it in terms of how they move forward. If they wanted to sever the entire western portion, obviously a road extending to the eastern portion has to be constructed. If they were looking strictly just to sever off a parcel from the entirety of the lands, the parcel or the property, they could just do a slight extension of the road to be able to Birch Street to be able to create frontage. One of the conditions of any of these actions would be to ensure that any future severances or any future development of the lands be subject to a development agreement. That development agreement would require full servicing, development of a comprehensive stormwater management plan, so that, and then ultimately having the landowner develop into a development agreement for a plan of subdivision. At least gives them some opportunities. I know there was conversations by the delegate in terms of the use of what they considered was a existing roadway. That's not an existing roadway. It certainly isn't recognized as a public right of way by the municipality. It is strictly a laneway that was used to access the former Seaforth landfill. It's only 10 meters wide. It's by no means constructed to municipal standards. Certainly, that's another option that the landowner could consider is developing that into a public roadway, but it would need the addition of an additional 10 meters to bring it to the 20-meter requirement, 66-foot frontage, or 66-foot width for a road allowance. So there's lots of things that can be considered in terms of what they're proposing to put forward. My recommendation is that the proponent maybe consider the information within this report and then come back and meet with staff in terms of what they'd like to try to do, and we'll certainly work with them in trying to find the best approach forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Just to let council be aware of this, the applicant phoned the office today. When they were here before, we did inform them that we would keep them up to speed on any information that was coming forward. So staff did make sure that they had a copy of the information that was being presented at council tonight. So there was no goof up there. It was maybe a misinterpretation by the applicant that he assumed at that time he automatically had a delegation for the meeting. So it was a last minute thing. Staff made me aware of this today. I did phone him. And let him know that if he wanted a delegation, I understood how the confusion could have come in because we were sending information. And I said, absolutely, if he wanted a delegation, he was welcome to do that. We could change the agenda to accommodate. But I did explain to him, as a delegation, he could comment on anything that was in the report If he disputed it or thought council should consider something else, that was fine. But it wasn't gonna be a one-on-one debate back and forth with councilors to try and sway each person individually. That's not the intent of a delegation. A delegation is to bring information to council, so council would have that information available to them when they make a decision. At this point, this is just a report bringing council up to speed. And unless council was going to make a decision, which I didn't think this type of report was something council was going to do, because it kind of puts it back in the property owner's hands at this point for them to move forward. And I did explain that if in fact they did something like a site plan or anything along that line, then there would be a public meeting component to those steps going forward, and definitely would have the opportunity to come and talk to council at that time. It didn't go over well, but he accepted the fact that those are the rules and chose not to come this evening. So I just wanted council to be aware of that if you get a phone call after the fact. So, Councillor Stefan.
So since with this report was sent to the delegation of the applicant, how long ago did he get that?
It was posted Friday. He came in the office today.
Okay, so he hasn't sat down with staff or anybody at this point yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was for information purposes. So unless there's any other questions, we'll carry on. 12.3, the property tax rates. They were all listed in your package. Didn't know if anybody had any questions on them or anything to discuss. And if not, can I get a mover and a seconder to accept those? Councillor Deal and Councillor Newell, that the council of the municipality of Huron East consider bylaw 29 of 2025 being a bylaw to levy the rates of taxation for the year of 2025. All those in favor? And motion carries. 12.4 municipal grants. I'm not sure who to turn this over to.
Thank you. Okay, so this report will have all the applications we received for the municipal grants. And they are all the applications were included with this report as well. There was 2 applications that didn't specify an amount, so I think just included what they were awarded in 2024 for your reference as you kind of make decisions on these here tonight. And with all those considerations, those 8 applications, it would be under the $25,000 that's currently allotted in the budget. So.
Any comments or questions on any of the applications that were put forward? Councillor Deal.
Sorry, this wasn't the applications that I had expected. I thought that this was more of a continuation of what we've done in the past with helping out the smaller groups in the area and whatnot. I was really blindsided by these huge amounts that these requests are.
I kind of take it the same way. There was 2 of them specifically that I would certainly need a lot more information on. And Councillor Chartrand, I will get to you. I saw your hand there.
Yeah.
Like the first one with the church, wanting the generator to be a warming center or whatever. We have a warming center in town, and technically that might be a warming center, but would it only be specifically for people that attend the church? Or to me, it seems a hard sell to put taxpayers' dollars into something like that when we're already providing the service. And maybe there was more information, I didn't catch it, but the 10,000 that was requested, I don't know if that was the cost of the whole generator system. I don't know if it was a $50,000 generator system and they were asking for 20% of the money. So there's certainly a lack of information, and those are the types of discussions that council has to have and decide whether these are appropriate things for those grant monies to be used for. The other one that I don't have enough information about, but I think I've heard bits and pieces from members of council at different meetings, but the one for the hockey tournament, I don't know enough about the tournament itself. At one time, I thought I was told that it's an all-adult tournament, And if we're subsidizing it, that to me didn't seem like an appropriate thing. It's one thing if you're subsidizing a tournament for 10-year-old kids to get them into the sport and to help out. But to put $3,000 towards grown adults to let them have fun over a weekend doesn't seem like the best use of taxpayers' dollars. But again, I probably need more information because I don't know all the details of what goes into that tournament or who's applying for it or anything else. So I don't know if the rest of council had any other comments. At some point, once an application has come in, I'm not saying that we have to make a decision this evening, but we do need to be reasonable in how fast we would respond in case they are going to go ahead with something and aren't getting something from the municipality. We need to make them aware of it so that they're not counting on it. And at the 11th hour, they find out that we're not being part of it. So again, are there any comments from members of council? Councillor Dolph?
I'm kind of agreeing with Councillor Deal. I guess I thought of ballparks and small halls and just things that we've always supported, and this just didn't seem to be what I expected from the grants. Like it's, you know, every year we have a few small requests and we kind of support them, and this doesn't seem to fall into that.
Councillor Chartrand, sorry.
Yeah, I was totally shocked about the $10,000 for the generator because that wasn't really the intent of these grants when we first started doing it. And what also surprises me with all of the discussion that we had from service groups when it came to rate increases at different arenas or whatever, we were trying to get the word out to those service groups. This is an opportunity for you to come out and ask for grants. If you want some grants to offset the increase of rates that we had raised, and there's not one request here from any of those service groups at all for grants, which really surprises me, but
If I can respond to that, I was kind of surprised they weren't there.
yeah,
But in fairness, I'm gonna say the meeting that we held in Brussels with the service groups up there. I thought at the end of the day, the majority of the people walked out of there and felt that we'd accomplished something. Whether they choose to ever apply for those grants or not, I'm not sure, but they were also made aware of the fact that we don't have the same 60-day time frame this year that we're hoping to hold in the future.
Right.
So if in fact they came to us later in the year and still had something, let's say for Christmas party or whatever event that they were putting on, I would hope that for the first year, we don't have all the money spent before that opportunity even comes up for them. Because it was explained that although this year we're leaving it open after the fact, it's going to be a shorter window that you're expected to get your grants in and let us know ahead of time so council can review them all at once. But because it's something new that we're introducing, we're trying to be a lot more lenient and bend sideways to accommodate people to a new system.
all the years that I've been on here, this particular grant program was designed for the smaller groups, basically, to come out and ask for different funds for that. And if we are gonna keep some money open for in the future where maybe groups might come and ask for some money, giving $10,000 away for a generator kind of eats away at that 25,000. Should somebody else come back and ask for some $200 or $500 or $1,000 for something?
I can appreciate that, but if you went back and reviewed the council minutes and that we had $25,000 available for groups to apply for, we didn't narrow it down to you could only ask for this, this, or this. And I would say kudos to the people at these organizations for at least paying attention, getting on the bandwagon. You're never going to get something if you don't ask for it, but at least now they're going to know some more criteria that goes forward into it. So Steffler.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm gonna be the same on the grants and the generator. We, as far as I understand, our community service is the auditorium up at the arena for emergency measures. We have that in place. On the request as well, there were still two other grants that were partnering that are undecided at this point. So, you know, I agree with what everybody's talking about, is if they get it, is it 10,000 or 50, it's all there, so definitely more information. The grant is a work in progress at our end too, we're learning it. So I commend everybody for asking for it. And this is why the discussions happen. The Seaforth Industrial Hockey League grant, they came to us for a reduced ice rate. We said they could go ask for a grant. So now they come to a grant and we say, well, we're not for this. Like, I mean, if that dog ever catches his tail, we're in trouble. So, I think that one, I do approve. It goes to our hospital, the funds and the proceeds, we already help, but we can't. I like that one. I like them, I like them all. I just really do struggle with the first Presbyterian only because, not because they asked, it's just a lack of really information and funding go forward. So.
Just out of curiosity, if I can ask, because we don't actually ask for financial statements. Should we have a little more information on what the tournament actually costs them to operate and how much money normally gets donated to the facilities inside of Huron East?
I think that was in the answer.
I don't remember all that. What did I miss?
In their application, they had a summary on that last page of how much they've donated to the Seaforth Hospital Foundation over the last.
Okay, I missed that. Good. Councillor Chartrand?
Yeah, the other question I got, and Councillor Fisher was not here tonight. He's on that group for that food thing through United Way, and he indicated at one of our last meetings, they weren't even really sure if that was gonna happen this year or not. So I don't know, what's that? They're hoping for next year, that's what he had said the last meeting.
The trust.
Yeah, so if it's not gonna happen this year, then that money could be put aside. It's $5,000, and they're definitely not gonna use it this year. They're not ready to open that up this year.
Okay, I have some other comments for that one, but Councillor McGrath.
I agree on the generator, it's a no for me because, okay, church, the office cost comes in next year, wants $10,000 for a generator for a warming center. It's a slippery slope you're going down. Hockey tournaments, I think, are the same thing. And I know we make revenue from them, it's a good money maker, but at the end of the day, then we have other hockey tournaments that come to our arena and use our arena. Do not get public or taxpayer dollars to support it. And they put it on, so. I'll use the Doug Perks, for example, and they put that on and it's, they don't come to us for money. And again, once you open that door, you say yes to them, well, if I was the Perks Foundation, I'd be coming in next year saying, I'd like some money too. So I think it just, I don't know where you top the grants off, but I mean, at the end of the day, can be a pretty wide open door. If you can't say no to one, then turn around and say yes to somebody else who has the same request. Same, everything else, it's not right. So that's all I'd say.
But in fairness, this is exactly the discussion the council should have right now. This is the first time that we have a new grant policy that we're trying to work into the system. We should have the discussions and say, if a tournament comes along and, first of all, they need to probably check off certain boxes. Are they putting money back into the community? How much are they putting in? How much is the tournament actually costing to operate it? And once we've got that information, we could maybe set up our own guidelines. So whether it's a hockey tournament, whether it's the service groups, those same types of scenarios can all fall into the same type of checklist is what would we grant? What would we consider appropriate? And in fairness, it's good information for them to have to decide whether it's worth putting an application in or not, or recognizing ahead of time, hey, we actually meet a lot of these criteria. We should see if there's some assistance we can get to do the work. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm with everybody else on that generator for sure, but back to the hockey tournament. History on that. Have we given them a reduced rate on ice? I may have missed that in our discussion. Or,
They requested that, I believe, and we said, let's hold off till our grants came out and that we could offset it that way. So they paid full price, but as did the Brussels Optimist, who just did the one in Brussels for the, same type of thing, so.
but did we handle it in previous years? Did we do anything for them? Or is this the first time they've asked for something like this?
My understanding, Lisa, they had an agreement, that was kind of a backdoor agreement that they.
There was no, official agreement, it was just a verbal agreement to some sort, and there's no, trace of who gave that verbal agreement, whether it was, through the recreation committee at that time, or was it the facility manager at that time? There doesn't seem to be an answer for that, so, yeah, but they were provided with a discounted rate.
Okay, well, no, that explains it. And I mean, they do donate money back to the Seaforth Foundation. I mean, it would be nice to support them, maybe 10% off on their ice fee or something like that. Or something along that line to make it enticing for them that, yes, we did donate something, but maybe not $3,000 worth either. I don't want to have too many rules either when people apply for this, but then if we had other tournaments come along, then, okay, we've already kind of set, this is what we do, 5% off or something like that. So anyway, that's my comments. Thank you.
I think there's actually a lot of merit to a suggestion like that for the simple fact that, when a tournament happens, I'm gonna suggest that the ice is busy from earlier in the day to later in the day, and we're renting it on a more consistent, we probably do make more money over the course of the weekend when things like that are happening. So by offering a 10% discount, we're probably still ahead of the game at the end of the day, and we helped out a little bit. So that's not a bad suggestion. I kind of like where that's going. I'm gonna go to Ray first and then Jeff.
We're telling everyone to ask. So any tournament can ask, and we need to look at it by a case situation. And obviously, in this particular tournament, they paid full ice time, correct, for all their tournaments, so we made revenue off all that ice time. Probably made money off the sale of alcohol from those guys, because I think we get $1 on every one that we sell, or $2, whatever it is. So besides making full revenue, alcohol revenue, they also, over the years, have donated $85,000 to the community, so. To me, that's kind of a no-brainer where we would help a tournament out like that, whether it's reduced ice time or a grant. Because we did tell them no to the reduced ice time to come back and ask for a grant, so now they've done that. But it's not one of these where they just want money and they're not donating to the community. We'll go through this on our community trust as well, because they come and ask us for donations. And we look at it case by case with financial information before we make our decision, just like what we're doing there.
Jeff was next on the list.
Just a comment, I think, we've already heard about 2 other tournaments that could have been in on this. So if you're looking at $25,000, you could be at close to $10,000 just on 3 hockey tournaments, regardless of some of these other things. So I think we need to think about that. And I like the notion of a percentage of ice rates off as opposed to the full thing. That's the way I would look at it.
Councilor Stefan.
And totally agree with Councilor Newell. The fact it has to be consistent. It has to meet a criteria. And I don't think we got there. We had it in Brussels, I guess, for nonprofits at half price. Whether that's right or wrong, you want to go back, I don't know, but again, it was clear cut. If you can provide A, B, and C, this is what your rate was. That might be something to Lisa and look forward to, but I agree, we can't. Councilor McGrath, got to know, here's your 3,000, here's your vote, we're out of money now, sorry, we were only at 25 and your tournament was in November, but yours was in March. That puts us in a bad spot. So it's a pretty simple, get a policy in place. We should have had that now and get an understanding of all. It's not just a nice rental, it's a park rental. It's anything for something that's consistent. So, I think we owe these people something for putting stuff back in our community. I don't know what the answer is tonight, but I'd hate to say to tournament A, you get 3,000, tournament B, you're out of money, you don't get anything just because it's a time of year.
Well, I think we need to respond
They apply.
somehow at this point. It doesn't mean that it has to be a definite yes or no at this point, but we could maybe knock some of these off the list pretty quick. And even if we're not gonna give a yes or no tonight, we should at least let them know that we are looking into it right now and we'll get back to them. People appreciate hearing something. So let's start it off with the first one, the United Way. Because we're not even sure about that, and that one there. I'll tell you why personally, I have a concern, is that. Don't get me wrong, the United Way serves a purpose, they absolutely do. But if the municipality was to put $5,000 worth of donations, whether it be through the grocery store here and the grocery store in Brussels. And put those grocery bags together and put them into our own food banks. I suspect that you would end up with a lot more benefit for the community than you would in donating it to the United Way. There are services that we purchase through the United Way, whether it be at a municipal level or at the county level, where because they bring other groups into doing studies or whatever, that it ends up being very economical to work with them. But the bottom line is someone at the United Way is going to have to get paid to do this. Where if we told each of these grocery stores they had so many dollars to put those packages together, and it doesn't have to be in 1 week, it could be over a course of a long period of time, so that we're helping supply the food banks. I think we could do a lot more good for the community than we could donating it to an outside group and just letting them manage it and pay their staff to do the work. That would be my thought process on that one. Councillor Stefan.
I think there's two things on that. This United Way program, they did present at the Community Trust in C4, is for a program right in C4 left the church in town. It's a new one they're trying to get off the ground. You are correct, Mayor, that there is quite a cost to it, and some of that cost goes to staffing. I didn't realize this, but you know, Lisa and Ray said it's not happening. I think we do owe them the courtesy to ask when the initiation of the project is before we make a decision. Because I totally agree that if it's not happening this year, there's no sense paying for it. But if it is, then maybe we could have a bit more information on what it actually is used for, as opposed to, you know, not knowing.
I need to ask Jessica, Jess, if we're gonna go down here and make decisions, can we give our comments on each of them and pass them as one motion, or should we do them one at a time? Do them as one motion? Okay.
I'm gonna track what
our comments are. Okay, so at the moment then, in fairness, you would like to request to the United Way to confirm whether that program is even confirmed to happen this year or not.
Correct.
Okay, so that's as far as that one needs to go at the moment. We're corresponding back to them. The Huron Plowmen's Association, kudos to Margaret, she is always on the job. $250, it certainly does go towards the rural farming community in Huron County. They've held this for years, they've never asked for more. I don't know what they can do for $250, but I really don't have a problem with that one unless somebody else here does. Okay. I think the consensus of the group, it sounds like the $10,000 for the standby generator. I think in fairness, our response should be is the fact that the municipality already does supply a warming center in the town, and that we feel that this would be redundant and not a good use of funds at this time. Okay. The next one, 400 Maitland Cemetery or Bank Cemetery. Again, if they can't cover their costs, we cover their costs. So I have absolutely no problem when it's a $400 request that we certainly give that $400 unless somebody has something that they know that I'm not aware of at this point. The Seaforth Industrial Hockey League, I would like to respond at this point that we are reviewing their application and that we will get back to them shortly. I think we should sit down and have the discussion, and we probably need to have a little more information from Lisa and possibly is there a benefit to the municipality overall that if someone was going to book a tournament in Seaforth, whether they're from the town or not, even if it was an outside group, if Mitchell was putting on some sort of hockey tournament and they needed more facilities, if they were to book for 2 solid days, would we give them a 10% discount? It's good for our staff, it's good for the income for the arena. And then if it's a tournament like this, would we give them 20 or 25% off when they're donating money back to the community? I think it's something worth reviewing. It could be a win-win all the way around at the end of the day. Councillor Stefan?
Yeah, it's definitely something, we should have a window of time frame of that, though. It shouldn't just go on, because we've already pushed this decision and directed them in one direction. So let's make sure that that conversation happens sooner than later.
I agree, and Lisa, when would be an appropriate time for you and council to have that discussion? And really, all we're gonna be asking for is a recommendation of financially what would make good sense.
Well, the tournament's already taken place, so, and we've held back on invoicing them because we were waiting for after the grant applications to go through, so we haven't asked them to pay their bill yet, so I imagine we can just hold off until we come to a decision as to what we want to do.
Okay, let me reword it. How fast could we get you to come back with a recommendation so we can put it to rest?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I can have it for the next council meeting.
Okay, like, in fairness, you're the one that knows the numbers. And if you come back with a recommendation saying this percentage and this percentage, we just need to debate those at that time. But I would ask that we do send a letter to them, saying that we are trying to determine the amount at this point and we'll contact them as soon as possible. Brett?
I kind of just some clarification from a staff perspective to understand where we might be going and what. So I'd like that report, that conversation to be more generic than specific to this entity.
Absolutely. Yes, no, yeah.
But I want to make sure I understand. So if just because someone's having a tournament, that's just for the benefit of the people participating in the tournament. Yeah, are we looking to provide a grant for those folks, or are we just looking for tournaments that provide some type of community benefit in the terms of either raising funds or bringing some type of awareness, right? So, you know, to there has to be some form of external to people participating, some community benefit. I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Because otherwise we're gonna have every tournament that comes in Huron East looking to try and get a grant for a reduction in fees. I'm not sure that's what council intends. If you do, that's fine, but I think you might pour through 25,000 pretty fast.
I was looking at it from a business perspective, is that if groups out there knew that we offered a discount when they would book 2 solid days and pay for our services, that if it financially benefited the municipality, that we would offer a discount and hopefully have our arena busier and busier all the time. That was my thought. I understand the point that you're making, but at the end of the day, if I paid a little bit more out in grants, but the arena actually made money at the end of the year, I'd be happy with that one too. But it's gonna be a balancing act, there's no doubt about it. I understand that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Councillor Deal.
Thank you. Could you give us a rough number of, like, approximately how much the rental would cost over the course of the weekend?
I don't have that information. Sorry.
We did give a council report when they made the original request, so we can kind of pull that information back when we have that conversation. I can't remember again off the top of my head what the numbers were, but I think we're probably back in February. I believe there was a report that came to council specific to this entity that was looking to have, and the dollars were outlined in that.
Okay, like, I think if you rented the arena for 10 hours straight, isn't it about $14,000? It's about $140 an hour.
Rates though, so there's a tournament rate, like an adult tournament rate, then there's a minor hockey rate, there's.
Okay,
Because would that not
Adult ice rate.
cover that?
it might, it
Like-
might.
And then some, maybe.
And you may be 100% correct, Counselor Deal, and maybe that side of it goes by the wayside. And the only thing that we take from the information that comes back is just that if you're holding a tournament, and you're giving money back to the community, that may be the only time that we do anything.
Thank you.
We're gonna go to Ray first, then Larry.
I agree that we need to have a standardized program that we can use through the whole municipality, but in this particular case, and in this particular group, in all fairness to them, they already came to us once and asked for a reduction in rate, and we told them no, but we gave them a direction to go ahead and apply for the grant, so I think we should give them the grant, but then from this grant forward, have this policy that we're looking at for future tournaments, whether it be a 10% ice reduction, if you're a community donator or something like that. Because we've already more or less told these guys that, we gave them direction what to do.
Mr. McGrath.
I think the fair way to do it is we have a $25,000 ceiling on grants, okay? First come, first serve. And when the money's gone, it's gone. Unfortunately, and those people wanting the grants, if they want for December, they're gonna have you that letter in January. Because how else are you gonna control who you get to, who you don't? They're all gonna come at some time with their demands. So I think you gotta be able to have a point where, you know, and they're reviewed anyways when you get them, but at the point where you received an order as to what you look at them, 1, 2, 3, 4, like right down the line. And then once you hit your magic $25,000, sorry, you were late getting in or whatever. And then next year, they're not late getting in, next year, they're the one in January as well. Looking for money, so something like that, I don't know how you, but you're gonna have this conversation every year. Halfway through the year, at the end of the year, want a little money here, money, it's like. That's the way it used to be done, I think, for a while, so.
Consider Steffer.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Councilor McGrath, but I don't think this is truly a grant. This is like, if we do a flat for everybody that it's 10, 20, 30, 50% off. You provide the papers like a food truck bylaw, you give your stuff, that's your rate. The grants, we talked about every year, we're like, we just got rid of it, we told the service club to go away, but it's not for a continuation every year. So a hockey tournament's gonna be next year, it's gonna be the year after, and then we're gonna get into that. I think this has to be part of our leases budget, the discount for every, whether it's nonprofit or whatever, or service, but however we come in, that's your rate. It's like, this isn't rocket science either. I think other municipalities probably have standards for, like, I'm just looking at the thing, but the city of London will have a nonprofit rate, they Stratford or a discounted rate. That if you fall into this category, that's what you pay. Question set, we can't put it on the arena manager, we can't put it on Lisa, council. Where do you fit in the bucket? That's your ice rink. Because this goes a lot deeper than ice. This is parks, this is community events for our hall rental. This is, like, we're gonna keep getting things that are just different answer. We're going to the Winthrop Ballpark, okay, we're going. I think we just need a policy to define what we're looking for. And then wherever they fall, that's the rate they get. Now, that's originally what they did, because they had an agreement, very wishy-washy, but they had an agreement. That now we didn't honor the agreement because there is, I guess what Lisa's saying, there is no agreement, it's just a conversation. But for the past 5 years, this group was charged this. The Brussels group was charged that. That's what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to make sure that if you're this group, that's what you're paying. If you need, if they've got a really, like a community event of a traffic, you come to council and ask for an exception on that, but normally, that's it. We can't have this coming to our grants every year, we'll have no money, because there'll be more tournaments every year, and then there'll be no money for grants for anybody else.
That's a very good point, and I was looking at it as the one-off. I hadn't considered the fact that you're right. They'll be back next year for the same thing, which technically falls outside of our policy right off the bat. So in fairness, maybe we give Lisa a little more than 2 weeks to try and come up with a concept of how we could handle this. And if council wants to make a motion that we approve this one, that's fine. I don't know where the $3,000 figure came from. And I guess that would be the next question is when groups come forward, how do you justify the amount that you're assisting each group with? Because if you do it as the first come, first serve, which is not the intent after this year, Councilor McGrath, there's only a 60-day window where we will receive and approve the grants in the future. That is what's been given to the outside organizations to be aware of.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, what I'm saying, in order. And just because somebody puts it in January 1 and they want 10,000 for January for. Well, you're gonna look at that grant anyways and say, well, why not? No. Okay, so that one goes by the wayside. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to have a ceiling, you have to sort of have a time frame because they keep dragging in here, there and everywhere else, so.
Councilor Duke.
I think to start off with, we need to cap it. We need to set a limit. And if they come in at, well, just looking at some of the other ones, like the Ag Society is a $2,000 one. Like, I'm not saying that cap it at 2,000, but I think we need to be able to fit as many of these groups in as we can. And yeah, if we start giving away $10,000, we got, that's pretty quick going through.
I'm still gonna need some sort of consensus from council on what we want to do at this point. Part of my problem is I don't know whatever that handshake agreement was they had in the past and how much of a discount they got. Like
It was
what?
in our- It was in our council meetings when they originally applied, but we can look back.
Heard that, yes.
Working on it.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
Working on
I
the
would-
initial report.
I'd like to shelf it. I think what Lisa said is we haven't billed them for ice yet, so that's good. I'd be really cautious of giving them $3,000 this year, especially because our window, we haven't hit 25, so you can sure bet that we're gonna get invoices for other hockey tournaments looking for the same treatment. I really do think we need to have Lisa work hard and put Denise on the treasurer side and put a policy in place, and that's policy. These grants are for a one-off grant. We don't have to spend $25,000 every year. That's just our ceiling.
Right.
So let's make a policy of what they can come up with and how it affects our budget, because it's already passed. But tossing money out just to random hockey tournaments and different things, I think we're getting ourselves in a thing. I think we're also struggling identifying between what's a policy and what's a grant. And let's not do that.
Go ahead, Fred.
I think we've bantered this grant program around a lot over the last year. I think if I could maybe offer a recommendation or a solution for council to consider is to maybe create a small group of representatives council to sit down with staff and walk through some of these concepts that they're talking about, because I feel like we're gonna come back to you in 2 weeks or a month and we're gonna get a different direction, and then we're gonna come back to you again, and we're gonna come back to you again. So maybe if we could sit down with maybe, 3 or 4 representatives council that we could sit down together and just as staff and sort of walk through what this might look like, so that when we bring it to council, it's got some sense of what the program looks like and what those criteria might be, because I'm struggling here sitting around this table as a staff person, trying to figure out what the heck we're bringing back in 2 weeks or a month's time that you guys are all gonna be in agreement with, or at least support, because we're struggling.
And if I can just jump in there, the whole concept was we were gonna have this separate pot of money. And that way we could work with some of the service groups and that was the reason they're putting money back in the community. But as you pointed out, Councillor Steffler, but if we do it every year, technically it goes against the whole concept but the fact of doing it through a grant is, from a bookkeeping standpoint, a much cleaner, better system for the municipality. Because then the funds that are raised at the recreation center are hopefully fitting within the budget and covering the cost of the recreation center, and we don't run into a deficit situation anywhere going forward. So we've kind of almost backed ourselves into a corner, saying we still wanted the ability to help groups that help the community overall, but we also said we didn't want to be paying the same bill year after year after year. I don't know if that helps with.
I'm only thinking that it might be worthwhile, because there's a few folks sitting around this table that seem to have some fairly strong opinions about what a grant program looks like, and I would like those folks maybe to be part of that group to have some conversations of what this might look like, so that we can try to find some common ground, I guess.
Councilor Dalton.
I might just hold that thought, but I'm looking and thinking of some of the things that we've supported, like, the soccer fields. They haven't applied, I don't know why. But it looks like a lot going to one event, one weekend. So I'm just, not sure how we should approach that one. A little more information, I guess, is what I was thinking of the cost of that tournament. That seems to be what we're stuck on.
Okay, so instead of asking Lisa to come back with a report, maybe we do need to get a few of us together and banter it about, and then still come back to council with what we think is the right idea and see what the rest of council thinks of it. And go from there. And I guess the bottom line is, if we haven't sent them the invoice, they're not screaming at us to figure out the answer at this point. Okay, all right, so that one, we're not gonna respond at this point. The Van Egmond Foundation, Ray, can you give us any more information on that? You're part of that group?
I'm not on that committee anymore, but
Okay,
again, it's, they more or less utilize that to help offset some of the other costs, because they still gotta pay huge insurance bills and maintenance on that building to be able to keep that museum going. They get no help at all from the county. They're all on their own, so.
no, but they do hold a number of events there throughout the year that brings people into town also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They bring people in, so.
So is anybody opposed to the $1,000 grant to the Van Egmond House? No. Seeing not, okay. The Seaforth Agricultural Society. I do not recall what we did for them in the past. If I remember correctly, they said their last year deficit was $227. 2,000 seemed a little high to cover 227, but I could be wrong. Did I read that incorrectly?
They would know better than I did.
Okay.
I didn't read all
Did they say that was their deficit last year, 227 or something like that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, and they didn't apply last year either
Okay.
to the grant. This is for 2024 grant.
Personally, when it's fairs, things like that, that happen in the community, at the facilities that are in the community and groups that are here, I do want to assist. I have a hard time giving them 10 times what they think they lost last year. But I do think, we should assist in some way for these events. Go ahead, Councilor Steph.
Yeah, I think it's very important we keep the agricultural fairs and that, and, you know, sure, they lost or made $200, but if we give them 2,000, maybe they could do $1,800 worth of more for the community. Like, they're trying to run on a balance. But if you're gonna, if things cost more, maybe I'm on the wrong here, I just think Brussels Fair, Seaforth Fair, same thing, here you go, you're 1,000 or 2,000, whatever we decide. That's our contribution of recognition for what they do for our community for 170 years, or 150 years.
I'm gonna say when I look at the Brussels one, and I'm using it to compare to this one. I have bragged as often as I could about the Brussels Fall Fair. And talked about the fact that it's basically free to the community and just the atmosphere and everything that goes on there. And for that reason alone, and even the last time I talked about it at county, which was sometime in the last 2 weeks or month, Central Huron was quick to stand up and say, well, we do some stuff that's free, at one of our events also, so, I think it's important, and I don't have any problem with the $2,000 there. I do know when I did the Egg Society last year, there's a lot of things you can do that don't cost, but they also had things that they charged for. So, and the fact that they only lost $227 or whatever that amount was, I'd be a lot more comfortable cutting theirs in half, doing 1,000 for them at this point, which is still 4 times what they lost, which should put them in the black. And I'd still be happy with the 2,000 for the Brussels Fall Fair at the moment, because they also do a lot bigger event in Brussels for what they're putting on. My personal opinion, when I've been through both of them. I don't know if anybody has any yay or nays on those. Go ahead, John.
I totally disagree with that. I think we're here in East. Brussels does an amazing job with their fair, but so do the volunteers of Seafloor. We gotta stop this. You're better than you because you're bigger, you're better. So is that Brussels has a better ice surface, so they get a, different rate? No. We appreciate the volunteers that they put in, and this is just recognition from the taxpayer, or us as council approval, of the amount doesn't matter, it's a recognition. So 1,000 or 2,000, whatever we agree on, I think it needs to be steady, and we gotta trust the organizations how they use the funds.
I would definitely agree with that.
Okay.
Same to both.
I'm on board with the same amount for both fall fairs, 2,008 each of them.
But it is council's decision. I only had my opinion.
I'm gonna come close to 25,000 this year anyways, tonight anyways.
There's a lot of months left. Okay, so the recommendation of council then is 2,000 for each of those organizations. Okay, that's fine. So we are done with this list at this point then. Okay, Jess, I'll just ask you to read it back and then I'll get a mover and a seconder. What we're doing.
So we have that we approve the following 2025 grant requests. We have Brussels Agricultural Society at 2,000, Huron Plowmen's Association at 250, Maitland Bank Cemetery at 400, Seaforth Agriculture Society at 2,000, and Van Egmond Foundation at 1,000. We have information going back to United Way Perth Huron, looking for clarification on that this project is happening for this year. And also seeking more information from First Presbyterian Church. So they weren't considered within this grant allocation at this time. And then I believe there's a remaining discussion on a small group to get together, discuss future hockey tournaments, related policies or discounts.
Okay, the only one I'm a little confused on is I didn't think we were asking for more information from the church. We wanted to basically just express to them that we already have a center in town. Yeah.
And then
They were highlighted red, so it's enough.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Deal, Councillor Chartrand, all those in favor? And motion carries. I guess, Brad, do you want a list of names or do you just want to pick out some people to have that discussion about how we might figure out what to do, whether it be service groups or hockey teams or whatever?
I think, if any of the members of council want to reach out to me that are passionate about what this looks like, then they send me an email tomorrow. We'll try to set something up so we can sit down.
Okay. Everybody hear that? So if anybody is passionate about trying to be involved in the original ad hoc committee discussion about how we're either going to handle service groups or hockey teams or whatever, reach out to Brad tomorrow. And then once he's got some names, he'll try and put something together and have a discussion so that we've got something to bring back to council, hopefully as early as the very next week. Okay. Where did I be wrong?
Accountability officers.
12.5.
12.5, thank you. So under 12.5, renewal of the accountability officer's appointment, and there is a motion listed there with Airds and Bearless LLP. And I get a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Morrison, Councillor Dalton, that the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the renewal of the appointment of Aird and Bearless, is that how you pronounce it? Correct. Bearless LLP as the Integrity Commissioner, closed meeting investigator and ombudsman accountability officers for Huron East and a 4-year term. All those in favor? Motion carries. 12.6 tender for the asphalt paving on Sawmill Road. The information was in the package. Barry is here if you have any questions about it. Have you dealt with them before, Barry?
No, we have not, but they're a well-known company. Cox are not a small company by any means. I have the references that we'll be checking, just to ensure that they're got a competent contract.
Okay, good. Councillor Stefan.
Yeah, just, we budgeted 1 million, it comes in at 500,000, that's a nice win, or I think, what was the reasoning behind that?
Oh, at the budget time, I go around and solicit budget numbers from the contractors, more or less local contractors, just so that we don't under budget, or over budget, sorry. And when the AC content at that time is a fluctuating component of the asphalt product, was probably at a higher mark. Then when we went to tender, it was probably at a lower mark, so it's a fluctuating price. That's basically the difference.
A big price.
It's a big price, like gas right now.
Carbon tax will do it all the time.
And that could be one of the major reasons as well.
Never thought about that. So if this gets accepted, it's locked in right now, no matter when they do the job.
Right.
Okay, can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by Councillor Newell, that the council of the municipality of Huron East accept the tender of Cox Construction Limited in the amount of $573,007.05 plus applicable taxes for asphalt paving on Sawmill Road from County Road 12 to Beechwood Line. All those in favor? And motion carries. Under correspondence.
Tag Day fundraising event from the 532 Maitland Air Cadet Squadron, so they put this request in every year. To do their Tag Day fundraising from April 25th to 27th.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Deputy Mayor. That the council of the municipality of Huron East has no objection to the request from the Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron for Tag Day fundraising on April 25th to the 27th, 2025. All those in favor? And motion carries. We are down to council reports, and I will go to the deputy mayor for county council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our last council meeting, I believe, was maybe March 18th or so. There was some conversation at that time whether or not we're going to have an ambulance station in Seaforth. So on March the 19th, our county council meeting, I did have an opportunity to talk to Jeff Horseman, and the mayor did ask as well at council concerning whether or not we were having, with regards to the possibility of an ambulance station here in Seaforth. He told me that he was just finishing up the terms of reference and that would be coming back to county council for discussion and a decision. I think he said sometime in April, so we've already had one meeting, so we have one more meeting yet, so it's possible that we'll be there then. So a better answer for sure after council gets done discussing that. We were also informed that we had had some water damage caused by water backing up on the roof of Huron Leaf. We have a $100,000 deductible on it, and it was a lot more than that. So I think we were getting some firm costs as repair and stuff. So we'll probably know that in the future. But yes, there was some water damage. We did sign a new 5-year lease with Central Huron for the ambulance station in Clinton. In economic development in 2024, there were 16 projects sharing in that $100,000 in the SLED program that's supporting local economic development. In Huron East, we had some projects. Huron East itself received $4,000 for a series of videos. Seaforth BIA received $5,000 for their Love My Main Street project. And Van Egmond Foundation, they received $8,000 to put towards their covered picnic pavilion there. We passed our Huron County budget also at that same meeting with a 5% increase, tax increase over 2024. Then moving on to March 24th and 25th, County Council had 2 days of priority planning for this term of council. Some of the things we talked about during that time was advocating for more funds from the higher levels of government to put towards homeless, and I believe long-term care as well was touched. So we also talked about levels of service in public works and exploring new ways, new areas for housing. And the one that always keeps coming up is Jim again wants to build houses at gravel pits. So it does. But anyway, we got a good discussion about that as well. So I'm sure that report will be coming back to County Council at a future date. On our April the 9th meeting, we adopted Central Huron's 5-year review of their official plan. Also in planning, we had 2 applications that came from Huron County. You may remember them. The one was the severance of Robbie McClure out in Egmontville, I believe it was. And the one from Tim and Tom Ryan. And that was that second severance on one property. And after much discussion, both of them passed, so they did. And my final one was also too, we were informed that there was 2 landowners in Huron County had been charged with clear cutting 1 acre of bush. They have since pleaded guilty and were fined by $50,000 plus court costs. I believe that was that one. So that was all of the ones from the county council. So there is 2 more courses. I think there are 2 more court cases that still to be determined yet. So everything.
Although the money being paid to the county through the court case sounds like a huge windfall. It costs us that much, basically, to fight it. But at the end of the day, it's still the right decision because there's no sense in us making bylaws if we're not gonna stand behind them. And I'm gonna say that we've got some reason to believe that this court case has opened up some eyes so that we may not have this issue as often in the future because of some responses that we've had. So can't go beyond that, but I'm gonna say the fact that we were successful on this one has done more good from a public awareness standpoint than anything else. Are there any other boards, committees, meetings, or seminars that anybody wants to report on? I already reported on mine today. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of attending Good Roads with Barry and Tanner and the mayor. I attended some interesting conversations that were there. I went to the one of repurposing aggregate, where there's a lot of money and time spending repurposing cement because of the fear of gravel pits becoming extinct in the future. So that was kind of interesting. One on intact insurance for municipalities. Another interesting one was the design of roads and parking. And the one I went to, you had asked me to go to, was the one about roundabouts. That one was really interesting. They showed all kinds of statistics on how it improved less accidents, both in vehicles, pedestrians. The pre-work that's done, even determine if a corner is acceptable for a roundabout based on size, based on traffic, transport trucks, regular cars, based on soil samples below, how they construct it. So it was a good eye opener as to just what's involved before they actually do make a decision, before they actually put a roundabout in an area. So there was also some unique different things there with cameras for our snowplow vehicles that could be put on dash. Different technology that the boys could use to help with liability, because now you have cameras on board, right? So it was the first time I'd ever gone to Good Roads, and it was very, very interesting to go attend some of those seminars there. So thanks for the opportunity to let me go.
So it was 2 things. One, our public works manager received an award, long service award, at the AOR's event, which is what, their annual general meeting? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, so it was.
Okay, so, now that you've received an award, Barry, and it was a nice reward, I got a picture of him up there. He doesn't like that, but I still got a picture and it was a nice picture. But I should put him on the spot now because, I think it was, I'm not sure if he's the treasurer or the secretary for Good Roads. Gentleman got up and he talked for a few minutes. And I can't type and listen the way Jess does, to get good information, but he talked about the fact that AORs or Through Good Roads come this spring, have some sort of program, where they will do something similar to what the province is doing, where you can borrow money through them, but their interest rate will be, he said, a full % less than what the province charges for construction type jobs such as roads and that. They're not gonna do it if you wanna fix your town hall. That's different, but when it comes to construction jobs, and I don't know, Barry, if, I know you were probably all thinking about your speech and everything that you were gonna give, but I didn't know if you caught on to, what he had. There was, and I have talked to, Mike at the county, and he was trying to get more information on it. But he hadn't got anything as of yet. And the only thing I remember the guy saying was, he said you could look it up under info@goodroads.ca, and it was under what they called their bond initiative. Now, Mike didn't seem to have any luck, but maybe he didn't have all that written down because it was just when I was talking to county council about it, and maybe he couldn't write and listen at the same time either. So but, yeah, I don't know. Did you remember that at all, Barry?
I remember the 1% below the borrowing power, but, or the lending rate.
Yeah,
But I didn't, I was too wrapped up in the great speech, but I'm sure Jamie's being the treasurer, she'll be all over that.
okay. But if in fact, those are the rates coming back, if it's gonna be a full % less than what the province lends us money at, which we always thought was the best rate we could get in the past, this is certainly something worth looking into, especially if we had some major construction jobs coming along, especially such as, I think we got a road out here that we're gonna put a lot of money into over the course of the next couple of years, so it should be considered if that's the case. Are there any requests by members at this point? Deputy Mayor?
I would like to, I don't know if this is the proper place to ask for a report, but I would like to ask for a staff report on the possibility of moving our bin rentals from waste management to Blue Water Recycling. We'll operate a bin service as well under the Mars business. We are a member of Blue Water. CEO Brad and I have talked about this a few times. I think we can save some money by doing this, but I'd like a report to know for sure. So I don't know who it needs to be directed to, but I'd like it done.
I think that's a very valid thing to look into. We deal with waste management. And every year, I think it's every year or every 2 years, they just automatically send a price increase. And we go, okay, that's fine. Well, guess what? We'll go to Mars. Well, the entire price increase seems to come off other than maybe $3 or whatever. It's like, you gotta stay on top of these people. And maybe Mars is the same way, I'm not sure, but I agree 100%. It's always worth shopping around, especially when there's so few players in the field. We need to keep them honest. So I'm gonna say that is a request at this point by the deputy mayor. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Deal? All those in favor? Motion carries. Anything else?
I have one.
No, I meant from the deputy mayor. Do you have anything else?
No under request done.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
So I have a request for staff. So right now, staff's in the process of doing a report, come back to council on the potential of a new fire hall. I have had a number of firemen, and without giving any names, because they always seem to go back on these people, a number of firemen approached me asking that the current fire hall is in a great location. It has a good bones to it. So what my request for staff is I would like a report as to what are the needs of the old fire hall to bring it up to standard. And what would that cost? I don't think we'd be doing our due diligence if we're only doing one report where the one report is the ratepayers are gonna spend 4.8 million on a new fire hall. What would it cost to update our current fire hall where it's at? So I'm asking staff, come back for a report with that.
Go ahead, Brad.
So, so staff, bottom line is staff, I don't believe have the competency to be able to provide such a report. We'd have to retain someone to do that, and there'll be a cost. So I don't even know what the cost is off the top of my head. I'm not even sure who you'd retain to kind of do that type of an assessment. So can I bring back a report outlining what the steps might look like to be able to retain someone and what that cost might look like first?
I guess, I mean,
Yeah.
if we can spend $1 million or $1.5 million on the current fire hall.
Yeah.
That gives it another 15 or 20 years of life versus spending 4.8 million. I think it's a legitimate request to do 2 reports at the same time so that we can look at it as council.
Yeah.
You know, why would we just go with one report and not know what it would cost for the other one?
And I don't have any objection to the request. It's just, I know it's not as simple as just staff bringing back a report.
So who's doing the report on the new fire hall?
Well, we're using basically a designer giving you some preliminary designs on that, but,
And obviously, you collaborate with fire department as to what their needs are at the building, right? You definitely wanna have their input on that, can't be all one-sided.
And I may be wrong, but I think some of the firemen have already had an opportunity to go and look at some of the newer fire halls in
Yes.
the area to see if that's.
And in all fairness
What they liked.
too, I mean, some firemen, they love the location where it's at. Other firemen who have gone on these tours would like to have a new fire hall. So you're getting, you know, information both ways. But I don't think we'd be doing our due diligence if we didn't look into the fact as to what does it take to bring our current fire hall up to a new standard?
And I don't have any problem with the request, Councillor Chartrand, and I do agree that the only way to compare apples to apples is everybody needs to understand all the same information. You can't only have 6 people go and look at a new fire hall and come back and say, this is what we should all be doing. You need to somehow organize something where all of the men firefighters would have the opportunity to not only see what the potentials are and discuss the benefits of, is this a better facility?
And at this point, we have frozen or blocked their budget for 2025 to do any updates on there until we get this report. We're waiting back for the potential fire hall. They can't do anything right now.
Yes and no. So it was put in there as in the funds will be available if council is ready just to go ahead, because we're not gonna do something else. And the only reason they were on hold is, in fact, we have been told the report from the county was going to come in April. Whether we want to do something with the county or not will still be this council's decision. But they may just flat out say no, then we know where we stand on our own. If they say yes, that could be a benefit to the municipality if we were going to do something, because those shared costs will be reduced for Huron East.
When I say their funds are blocked, trust me, they're blocked. They were told by Steve that there's no spending, don't do the washrooms, you can't do this, even though it's in the budget. It is on hold until we get the report back from staff. So.
You're correct.
And I know in the motion, when the motion was passed, you made comment that ultimately it's a decision of council whether we want to go ahead and do it or not. And at this point in time, we're waiting for this, and I believe you said you just have that information by June.
certainly on the new concept, I don't have any idea how long it would take to provide.
Right, and before we as council make a decision on the new fire hall, if that ever comes to be, you obviously want the information as to what would it cost you to update the old one. But meanwhile, their $75,000 budget is on hold.
Right.
Which I don't think is fair, but that's what it is.
Are there any other requests by members at this time? Councillor Stefan.
Just from the Sequoia Homecoming Committee, just CAO Brad and Barry, if a couple of the homecoming committee members could meet with the outgoing people to show the transition to new people, and that we're all on the same page for what's coming up for this, at your convenience.
Are there any notices of motion at this time? Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I'd like to bring a motion forward. I want to bring a motion forward for council to consider to rescind the motion we passed in December to declare the Huron East Family Health Team building surplus. I'm not sure if this is the best way to do this, but I think it's important to reverse that decision. And if we decide in the future to declare the building surplus, we do it in a much more open and transparent manner. I'd like to bring that motion forward next week.
Okay, there's the request, no problem. Any announcements at this time? Councilor Stefan.
Just to be known that a longtime resident and influential person, Claire Westcott, passed away. So if anybody wants to take a look at Claire Westcott and Seaforth, pretty important individual, the top government for Bill Davis, and he recently passed away. So just condolences, and maybe something we could do from the municipality, acknowledge.
Okay. Are there any other announcements at this time? Seeing none. I have nothing listed under other business. So I am down to bylaws. Can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 29? Deputy Mayor, Councilor Deal, that it is hereby resolved that bylaw 29 of 2025, a bylaw to establish the 2025 tax rate, be given first, second, third, and final readings and signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Motion carries. We still have an item under our closed session. So can I get a mover and a seconder to go back into closed? Moved by Councilor Deal, second by Councilor Wilby. Thank you, folks. That a closed meeting of council be held on Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 at 7:52 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purpose of the following matters. And the last item for us to discuss will be 18.4 personal matters about identifiable individuals and labor relations regarding employee matters. And that CAO Brad McRoberts and Clerk Jessica Rudy